Hi, you're listening to Julie Taylor, and this is Julie and Company. Today we have Chelsea Paquette, a biologist from the Granby Zoo, and she's visiting us in the studio to tell us about turtles. Hi, Chelsea.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here as well. Thanks for coming. So, Chelsea, I imagine there are many types of turtles. So the wood turtle, is that every other turtle like the family of turtles with like snap turtles, or is it a particular turtle?
Yeah, so the wood turtle is one of our 8 freshwater species of turtles that we have in Quebec. So the wood turtle is a species, but so is the snapping turtle or the painted turtle that people mostly see very often anyways.
And where would we see a wood turtle?
Wood turtles have really specific habitats. We don't see them a lot in Quebec. In fact, my colleague Audrey, shout out to Audrey, I guess right now, she loves turtles and reptiles and amphibians, and her first time seeing a wood turtle was just yesterday. So that was really fun.
In the wild, you mean?
In the wild,
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But she's seen every other species of reptiles and amphibians. So the wood turtle is a pretty hard species to see because it's very terrestrial. And we have a lot of plants, and so the wood turtle is really hidden underneath the plants, and it requires like a very specific type of river as well.
So how would a girl like you end up a biologist? Do you want to tell me a bit about your studies and things like that?
Yeah, I think that I'm a biologist probably because my parents let me spend a lot of time outside when I was young, and we had a lot of animals, wild animals that were living on our farm. I spent my summers outside playing in. I remember playing in the ditches alongside of the road to look for frogs. So I really like nature. It's something that I grew up with, and so I knew kind of I wanted to spend time outside and be a biologist. I'm very scientific. I'm very analytical. So I kind of knew where I wanted to do my studies, but it did change after my first year. I actually went to Bishop's University for my undergrad, and I thought I was going to be a doctor, but that changed after my first year when I realized that I could actually work outside and work with animals. So.
Okay, I see. And so I'm just curious, if you spent a lot of time outside, today a lot of parents are a bit discouraged at the culture of children who have too many electronics and gadgets. So did your parents just limit your access to the internet, or you just were not that interested, or who guided you to be outside?
Yeah, I think my parents were very outdoorsy people, especially my dad. I never had an interest for video games, and I still don't. Like, I just can't play video games. I'm not able to. My hands can't do it, everything.
Not until they come up with a game that's called Wood Turtle. They're just going to be on the internet playing Wood Turtle.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my parents just encouraged me to go outside, and I just loved being outside anyways. I played a lot of sports that were outside, so it was just natural for me.
So you went into science, medicine?
Yeah.
And you switched to biology?
Yeah, I switched to ecology, exactly.
Okay. And you started seeing the opportunity? I mean, were you thinking, as you were studying, well, I could work at the Granby Zoo, or I'm just trying to think, it's so uncommon as a profile.
Yeah.
You have to think, where is this going to go?
Yeah, I never thought that I'd work at the Granby Zoo. During my undergrad, I did a lot of different internships. I did some in vet med.
In vet med?
Yeah, veterinary medicine. And yeah, and during that, I actually volunteered at the Calgary Zoo, but I never did that thinking that I would work in a zoo one day in my life until I saw a really nice job posting for the Granby Zoo, and I applied after my master's.
So I'm going back again just a little bit. A lot of people, young ladies who love animals, think, okay, I'll be a vet. Now you started studying, you moved into animal biology, and you internship for a veterinarian. Did it fit? Or did you then realize you had this passion for the outdoors as well? How does it come together? Because I just think it's probably an underexplored field of studies, and even myself, I'd be short to think of the many opportunities.
Yeah, I think I got really lucky, but I also worked really hard for it. And my first internship was at the University of Calgary, and I was working in 3 different labs. So one of them was in wildlife veterinary research, and 2 others were more like classic working on cattle. So it kind of allowed me to see that vets don't have to be vets working on cats and dogs, and they can also do research to apply that to wildlife health. And so that allowed me to see like all types of veterinary medicine and seeing what biologists can do in the field, because we worked with biologists that worked on muskox, for example, and bighorn sheep, and that allowed me to really see all the opportunities that could come.
So you saw the opportunity at Granby Zoo, you applied, you get the job. You've been there how many years?
3 years now.
Okay, so you're here because you're talking about this big project that you are funded for, and it's about observing the wood turtle in its natural habitat.
Yeah, exactly. So we just got funding for a 4-year project, and it was funded by the Fondation de la Faune du Québec as well as Daille du Québec, le MELCCFP. Donc I'll just save that for everyone. And so it's a project that we have like a lot of partners for. The OBV Yamaska is an organisme de bassin versant, so they're working on the watershed of the area. And so we have a lot of partners, and we're all working together to try and reduce the threats to wood turtles in their natural habitat.
So there's a lot of different organizations on the project. So do you guys get together in the first place and apply for, I mean, somebody's got to manage communications, got to know the field enough, go and get all these intervenants in French, or how do you say, involved aspects, and then you apply for the grant?
Yeah, so for example, for this specific situation, it's like, I guess I will say it's my project. I created the project.
Oh, congratulations.
And then I went and saw some partners that I thought would be really, really useful. For example, l'UPA de la Montérégie. They work with farmers all the time, and I'm not going to go work with farmers without their expertise in this project. So I went to see a bunch of partners, asked them if they would support us in the project. How could they support us? Are they going to provide materials, time, etc.? And that's kind of how it goes about.
Oh, beautiful. So it's really a collaborative effort.
Oh yeah, we support all the conservation organizations. We're supporting each other all the time.
Yeah, and you need a personality for it. You really have to be able to not so much give and take, but make room for other people's objectives and overlap yours. And it
takes a world to help a turtle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Now you have a project for 4 years. You have people on board, and what are your objectives?
Yeah, so our objectives mainly are to reduce the threats that are the wood turtle is facing right now. So this can include agricultural intensification, forestry practices that could hurt the young and the adults, but also we're going to work on the recruitment. So that means helping the young be born and grow up, and ensuring that there is, it's a very niche word, the recruitment, but ensuring that there's a succession to this population. And of course, all of this work, honestly, is done on private land. So we can't do this without our landowners who allow us to go on their land and look for turtles and they're open to receiving our recommendations and how they can help this species of turtle, because honestly, they are the most important people in this project.
There's so much to talk about. Can we start with the cycle of a turtle?
Yeah.
And where does it live? What's its environment?
Yeah, so the wood turtle really likes meandering rivers it's a river that has a lot of turns. These turns are going to create sandbanks. The sandbanks are going to create places for turtles to lay their eggs. So they really choose their habitat wisely, that's for sure. So that's where we can find wood turtles. During the winter, they hibernate at the bottom of the riverbank. So this is an area that's pretty deep, but deep enough so that the water isn't freezing. There's still oxygenation, so they'll hibernate all winter at the bottom of the river, and then in the spring, when temperatures increase, they'll start to exit the river. They'll go more on land. They'll warm up their body temperature with the sun because they are reptiles, so they're cold-blooded. And then they'll feed, reproduce, and the females will lay their eggs, and then the young will hatch in the fall. They'll eat for about 2 months, live their lives, and then hibernate just like their parents did.
I see. Hi, would you like to be on the show? Do you have any questions or ideas you'd like to share? Go to julietaylor.ca and leave me a message. When is a mature female turtle ready to lay eggs for her first cycle, and how many years will she lay eggs for?
Yeah, that's a good question. Turtles are very vulnerable because it takes them so many years to reproduce. So usually about 10 years before a turtle can actually reproduce and lay its own eggs, which is just incredible when we think of the fact that like a rodent can reproduce the year after it's born, and it will also have a lot of young, and turtles have no parental care either, so the female will just lay her eggs and leave them. So she's laying more eggs to try and compensate for the fact that maybe a few of them will live.
So how many eggs would she lay in one?
Yeah, so the wood turtle usually, for what I've noticed, is around 8 eggs. Of course, it could be up to 12, but really on average it's about 8. And if we compare this to the snapping turtle that most people see, they can lay 30 eggs.
Wow.
So it really depends on the species of turtle. The wood turtle is smaller, so they can hold less eggs, and therefore she'll lay less eggs.
And so would she be capable of bearing eggs or laying eggs once a year, every 2 years? What's the interval? What's her cycle?
Good question. I'm pretty sure it's once a year, but I've never actually looked into that.
So because I'm not a turtle expert, but you are, tell me, female turtle will lay eggs, and is it given that the eggs will hatch, or must there be a daddy turtle involved?
Yeah, the eggs have to be fertilized. This is not a silly question. Honestly, the eggs need to be fertilized because we will see eggs that are not fertile and they just won't hatch. There's nothing inside.
So
there's no embryo.
Outside or inside the mummy?
I guess inside the mom. These are difficult questions.
It's X-rated, people. So she can have eggs every year. She may only have 8 eggs. Not all of them will hatch. So it's an endangered species. You were saying when they do come up, they eat for a couple of months before they hibernate again. So what would they eat?
Yeah, wood turtles, because they are a very terrestrial species of turtle, they do eat a lot of vegetation, berries, but they also eat things like slugs and insects in the water.
Mm-hmm. And there's an abundance of food for them. Is that an issue?
I don't think it's an issue. Most of the turtles I come across have a lot of food around their mouths, so...
All right, good for that. What about predators?
Yeah, so there are some predators for turtles. Obviously, their eggs can be eaten by a lot of different species like raccoons, skunks, for example, coyotes, all those natural predators that would just like to eat a nice egg, apparently. And because the species I just named are also species that are more and more present, especially with the colonization of humans. So we have more and more predation of turtle nests, more than normal. Wood turtles are also affected by herons. For example, the young can be eaten by herons. The adults can also be eaten by various
So do you have any statistics that out of 8 eggs, 2 are going to make it to the second year?
For the wood turtle, I don't have an answer, but for turtles in general, it's around 1 to 5% of young that actually survive.
Okay, and what's a life cycle? How many years would a turtle?
Yeah, normally a turtle can live, well, it'll take about 10 years before it reproduces, and then an adult turtle can live up to 30, 50 years. It's quite impressive.
To 50 years?
Yeah.
And you found some on the...
Yeah, in the field we come across wood turtles, of course, because we are working in an area where there's quite a large population of wood turtles. And we definitely find a lot of individuals over 25 years old. After 25, it's really hard to age them correctly. But definitely there are some older individuals in this population.
And how do you try to age them? I was just thinking the circles in a tree or, teeth on a horse, but I don't think they have teeth. How do you do it?
No, it's really similar to the rings of a tree, but it's actually the scale on their carapace. And every year there kind of is like another layer, so it creates these tree rings on their back.
See.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
A little fun fact. So we're talking about predators. Obviously they can be eaten, but you did mention the environment and their land. Is that an issue as well?
Yeah.
Tell me the many aspects of why it's important now to save the turtle.
Yeah. I think like a lot of the species that we have in Quebec right now, especially species at risk, most of them are impacted by habitat loss. So like we are just exploding a human population right now, and we are developing. Urban development is a huge impact on species right now. So the wood turtle is definitely impacted by the loss of habitat, by agricultural work, forestry as well. So all those types of practices can impact the wood turtle because they do need a very specific type of environment, and they're very terrestrial as well, so they are going to be impacted by activities going on land.
Okay, and that's why it's so important for you to work and collaborate with landowners.
Yeah.
You go on the land and
yeah,
you
exactly.
see.
And what's really cool about our project is we span 6 kilometers of a river, and some are agroforestry, some are in agricultural. So what's really cool about this project is that we are working with 12 different landowners. So along this 6 kilometers of river, we have property owners that have different uses of their land.
Yeah,
so whether they're
sectors.
agricultural uses, forestry uses, sand pits, mining areas. So it's really interesting to work with all these different landowners and work together with them to try and figure out how they can better their practices for the species.
I imagine that every single practice of every single landowner affects the turtle, its potential life. You can tell me why. I'm also curious to know, then, what is your objective? To keep the river and the river bed and the river environment untouched? Is that the objective?
No, I think that everyone is allowed to touch the river and use it. I think the most important thing is to raise awareness for just the fact that everything we do has a consequence, whether it be a positive consequence or a negative consequence. So, I mean, for example, we have, if someone is going to cut the hay in their field, this can also cut a turtle that's trying to warm up their body temperature in the field as well. So we can lift the height of their machine so that it doesn't actually cut a turtle in half. So these are all different things that we can do. We can help agricultural landowners restore their plantations and ecosystem along the river. So all that stuff is super important.
So how far might a turtle migrate away from the water area or the river?
Yeah, it's a really good question for the wood turtle, and I love this question because we can be really surprised. So the wood turtle normally can go within 200 to 500 meters away from the river, according to the literature, but in practical experience, we've seen that the turtle can go kilometers away from the river in search of nesting sites or in search of food.
Okay, so I'm just guessing. It would go to say that if a turtle found nearby the riverbed all it needed, it might not need to travel the world.
Exactly.
Okay. So hence, if landowner is doing certain activities, if he could perhaps reinvest an ecosystem, maybe 10 meters of the riverbed, he could have a positive impact on the population of turtles, because then the turtle would limit its activities to that.
Yeah.
And then he could be free of all his land to do as he wished.
Yeah, I mean, that's a start for sure, but we never know. We don't know exactly what a turtle needs. We can assume we have enough knowledge to kind of get the life cycle of a turtle, but we don't know exactly how many meters the turtle needs, but definitely to have plantations along the river, that will definitely help the turtle.
So I understand you're creating awareness, you're communicating things, and what about objectives? Do you have actual objectives to meet in the next 4 years? Or do you feel that as you get going, you'll be able to define them based on what you observe in the first place?
Yeah, we definitely have objectives, and of course, objectives, they are objectives, and we're allowed to change them as the project goes because we are going to evolve. We're going to get more information on this population. And so mainly, I would say we have a list of actions, and then through these actions, we have general objectives like raising awareness for the species in the area with private landowners, but also with people in the community, because it's not just the private landowners that we need to target. It's also elected officials, so the municipality in general. So overall, we really want to reduce threats to the wood turtle, but by reaching a large variety of clients.
So what about a general citizen like myself? I'm out and about. What time of the year would I see them?
Most citizens will see turtles during the nesting season. So when they're ready to lay their eggs, they're going to be more on land and looking for spots to lay their eggs. And this is usually in the month of June.
Okay. And is there something I should or should not do to have a positive impact on their population?
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's super important to observe animals when we see them. So definitely encourage everyone to observe and submit their data. Actually, in Quebec, we can submit turtle observations to carapace.ca.
Carapace.ca.
Like a turtle's carapace.
Okay, carapace.ca. So someone like myself, if I've seen anything of activities, I could go online and maybe contribute with some information.
Yeah, because we use that data all the time to create projects and to target specific areas where threats might be high to turtle species.
Is there a way that you should not approach a turtle, or a way that you should pick up a turtle, manipulate a turtle, help a turtle cross the street turtle thing?
Yeah, my advice would to always let a turtle be, let them live their lives, but if they are in danger, help in a way that we can. If a turtle is going to be crossing the street, we can help them cross the street, encourage them, pick them up if it's safe to do so, and carry them in the direction that they were going.
And keyword is in the direction.
Yeah.
Because they have a radar. That's where they're going.
That's where they're going. That's where they want to be. So if you put them back to the other side, they're probably going to cross again, and maybe the next citizen isn't going to be as nice.
Okay, so help the turtle cross the street, observe them, try not to manipulate them except in a case of emergency, I suspect.
Yeah, and if a turtle decides to lay their eggs in your garden, leave it be. You're going to have a nice surprise in the fall.
Wow, they could actually do that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chelsea, what are your activities, for the next week, quickly?
Oh, well, today's Friday, so I'm pretty excited for the weekend. But no, definitely for the next week. I'm working on a lot of different conservation projects. Specifically, this week I'll be capturing chimney swifts. This is a species of bird, and I'm collaborating with a project by Connexion Naturelle in Chambly. So I'll be capturing chimney swifts to put some nano tags on them. This is going to allow us to find their nesting habitats. I'm also going to be definitely outside a lot along the river, looking for wood turtles, looking for wood turtle nests.
All right.
So that's pretty much my life.
So Chelsea, imagine a turtle hatches eggs on my property. Would it be useful to call the zoo?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, what's really interesting is the zoo has, we can accompany citizens in either removing the eggs, incubating them at the zoo, or displacing a nest and ensuring that it can hatch in an ideal location. So we can protect the nests in that way. We definitely offer a service to citizens, so feel free to call the zoo and ask for our help. We'd be happy to. In fact, the Zoo de Granby actually has a conservation and research department, so I'm part of that department, and right now we're 8 biologists that work full-time outside of the zoo on conservation projects, helping preserve and protect these species at risk in Quebec and also internationally. internationally. So what's really cool about that, and a lot of people don't know this about the zoo, but we definitely work on over 40 different species in Quebec with over 10 municipalities. So we're very present in the area, working on tree swallows, chimney swifts. I love chimney swifts. We have a lot of them in this area. Wood turtles, spiny softshell turtles. So we have a lot of projects going on in Quebec, so you'll probably see us around soon.
That's very exciting, Chelsea. Thank you so much for coming by today.